Turning our attention now to that of the Middle East, where Israel is taking new steps to shield itself from its Arab neighbours. Having already walled off the Palestinians, Tel Aviv's now seeking to do the same with the Lebanese. Let's get the latest now from RT's Paula Slier, standing by live in Tel Aviv. There, good to see you. What are Tel Aviv's reasons for this move?
Well, the Israeli army says it is building this 7-meter-high cement wall between Israel and Lebanon to prevent firing from Lebanon into northern Israel. Now, over the past year and a half, there have been a number of incidents. Just last week, a man crossed over the border with his 2 children from Lebanon. But a much more deadly example was last year when a number of people were killed during Nakba commemorations when they came too close to the border from the Lebanese side. Until now, there has been an electrified fence along the 1-kilometer Israeli-Lebanon border. And this fence is monitored by UNIFIL, the United Nations Interim Force in Lebanon. In fact, Israel and Lebanon, while being technically at war, their armies do meet under the auspices of UNIFIL. And this wall is being constructed in conjunction with UNIFIL, the Israeli army, as well as the Lebanese army. But in addition, Israel is also in the midst of building a wall along its southern border with Egypt, a wall that it says it hopes to have finished by the end of the year. According to the Israelis, the wall in the south is to stop militant activity there and also to prevent smuggling. And then there's another wall, the very controversial wall that Israel has built since 2002 in the Palestinian West Bank. And it's controversial because very often it's built on private Palestinian land and cuts through villages, and it has caused outrage in the international community. But there too, Israel has cited security concerns as the reason for that particular barrier.
Well, Paula, obviously, as you say, this comes as tensions are rising across the region, but it might seem to some that Israel is just becoming more and more isolated.
Well, certainly Israel does seem to be becoming more and more isolated. We just need to look at the relationship between Cairo and Tel Aviv, which has hit an all-time low. Amr Moussa, who is the Egyptian presidential front-runner, said recently that the Camp David Accords, which were signed between Israel and Egypt back in 1978, are dead and buried. And in addition to that, just a few days ago, Cairo stopped its long-standing agreement to supply gas to Israel. In addition to that, we have the situation with Iran, and here too we are now seeing cracks between the Israeli political and military leadership over whether or not to go ahead with preparation for a war, whether or not they should continue talking about a war, and there's a lot of confusion around that too. So certainly tensions in the region are increasing.
All right, RT's Paula Slier there joining us live from Tel Aviv. Thanks.